In recent years, nuclear threats, cyber risks, psychological warfare, and a military buildup suggest a potential conflict between China and the US. A major attack could lead to a prolonged struggle, with China's military advancements complicating US operations near its mainland. What would happen if the United States was attacked by China? First, let's do a quick review of the relationship between the United States and China in order to see what factors are at play here. Throughout this brief history, there will also be highlights of the type of warfare that China has conducted in the past, thus alluding to the weapons and power they currently have at their disposal. Although allies against Germany, Italy, and Japan in World War II, these superpowers clashed soon after over political ideologies, communism, and democracy. This escalation culminated in the Korean War. Korea now separated between North and South, though traditionally East and West. The communist-backed North Korea, backed by a Chinese-Soviet alliance, squaring off against the American-backed South. These alliances are similar to the geopolitical landscape we see today. A different war than the previous world wars, the Korean War had offshoots like the Taiwan Strait crisis, a civil battle between the Communist People's Republic of China and the more capitalist Republic of China. President Truman initially took a neutral stance. Commenting about the Taiwanese island of Formosa in January of 1950, the United States has no desire to obtain special rights or privileges or to establish military bases on Formosa at this time, nor does it have any intention of utilizing its armed forces to interfere in the present situation. The United States government will not pursue a course which will lead to involvement in the civil conflict in China. However, he took a quick about-face that same June, sending the US Naval 7th Fleet in an act of prevention, stating, "Communism has now passed beyond the use of subversion to conquer independent nations and will now use armed invasion and war." This would be a continued trend by the Chinese government to stay out of the United Nations dictates and attempt to stronghold territories into their power. 20 years later, President Jimmy Carter sought to establish diplomatic relations with China, thus highlighting a continuous pendulum of peace and war between the two growing countries. From here on out, the US recognized the People's Republic of China and shifted their center of recognition from Taipei to Beijing, Carter saying, "The government of the United States of America acknowledges the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China." This comment would live on to today, bolstering the One China policy. Yet despite American support of the policy, Taiwan remains vocally separate, and certain American actions throughout can be seen in support of these claims also, thus subverting the policy. For instance, Carter's Taiwan Relations Act enabled the American people and the people on Taiwan to maintain commercial, cultural, and other relations without official government representation and without diplomatic relations, thus creating a somewhat sovereign nation economically, even if not nationally. American attempts at diplomacy continued under President Ronald Reagan, who granted Taiwan the 6 assurances, which included commitments such as refraining from involvement in issues between the two Chinas. Yet Reagan also reaffirmed acknowledgement of the One China policy, an echo of Carter's statement and an internal effort for China to unify under one flag, particularly at a time when containment of the Soviet Union seemed necessary in order to curb its growth from getting out of control. Looking ahead to the late 2000s, we witnessed China's rise as an economic superpower, becoming the world's largest holder of US debt. Soon after, it claims the title of the world's second-largest economy, signaling a growing threat. Beginning in his election bid, the Trump administration took a confrontational stance, criticizing China's trade practices and accusing it of exploiting the US. In 2020, he said, "China's pattern of misconduct is well known. For decades, they have ripped off the United States like no one has ever done before. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year were lost dealing with China, especially over the years during the prior administration. China raided our factories, offshored our jobs, gutted our industries, stole our intellectual property, and violated their commitments under the World Trade Organization. To make matters worse, they are considered a developing nation getting all sorts of benefits that others, including the United States, are not entitled to," while commenting on his garnering of a trade war in 2018. A tense expression of economic warfare, which is typically played out between trade partners, utilizing targeted tariffs on each other's imports. The US-China trade war had far-reaching economic repercussions, causing trade disruptions and exacerbating tensions between the two nations. But this was just the beginning. In 2021, the Trump administration also accused China of genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang, targeting Uyghur Muslims and other minority groups. This almost occurred simultaneously with widespread protests erupting in Hong Kong. But what further ignited the tinderbox was the COVID-19 pandemic, which seemed to overshadow these issues. The novel illness spread rapidly from the Wuhan province across the globe, leading to speculations of it being an act of warfare. However, since the laboratory is operated by both Chinese and Americans, the true cause remains disputed. Still, the pandemic era brought an end to the protests. Everyone called to retreat to their homes in an effort to contain the spread. The global focus shifted towards responding to the illness. Unrest and distrust amounted within the US, exacerbated by the response to the COVID-19 pandemic as well as the jungle of information for citizens to sort through. This contributed to the civil unrest and confusion surrounding the nature of the American relationship with China. The outbreak of hostilities between Russia and Ukraine further complicated the matter, with China's support for Russia and United States' overt support of Ukraine mirroring past conflicts. Concerns also arise regarding China's military activities in the South China Sea and its significant investments in cyber capabilities, methods of unconventional warfare which will be examined further in the video. These factors raise the possibility of a potential attack on the US, and war seemed, as it often does, on the brink. This historical overview has touched upon economic and potentially biological weapons, as well as land grabs from China, but there are other crucial aspects to consider. In recent years, nuclear threats, cybersecurity risks, psychological warfare, and a buildup of conventional warfare resources point to a pre-conflict posturing. A large-scale engagement spurred on by an attack could escalate into a protracted struggle, utilizing these different facets of warfare and sources of power. China has made significant advancements in military capabilities, particularly in areas that pose challenges to the US in conducting effective military operations near its mainland. The Chinese Communist Party has often been characterized as a bully, using various tactics to expand its influence. These tactics include acquiring significant portions of America's farmland, a country heavily dependent on China for its manufactured goods. Additionally, China has employed unconventional methods, such as constructing artificial islands in the South China Sea to disrupt shipping lanes and undermine regional stability for its own benefit. These predatory actions not only highlight China as a threat to the United States and global peace, but also demonstrate their determination and ingenuity in asserting themselves as the leading superpower. China's military modernization has increasingly challenged US defense capabilities in Asia. Although China still lags behind the United States in terms of overall military strength and operational skills, it has notably improved in the areas mentioned earlier. Furthermore, President Xi Jinping's commitment to making the People's Liberation Army a world-class military by 2035, combined with China's surpassing the United States as the world's largest navy in 2014, sends a clear signal that the competition is becoming more intense. US commanders expressed deep concerns about the relentless development of Chinese air defenses, which pose a significant threat to operational capabilities in or near Chinese airspace during a conflict. In 1996, a substantial number of China's 500-plus long-range surface-to-air missiles (SAM) systems were mere replicas of the outdated Russian SA-2 missile, limited to a range of approximately 35 kilometers. However, by 2010, China had boldly deployed around 200 launchers for their more advanced double-digit SAMs. These formidable missiles boast superior seekers and extended ranges of up to 200 kilometers. Coupled with highly capable fighter aircraft and the introduction of airborne warning and control system-equipped planes, the Chinese Integrated Air Defense System (IADS) has emerged as a formidable and unwavering obstacle. Nevertheless, US air forces have responded with unwavering determination, bolstering their penetration capabilities by incorporating cutting-edge stealth aircraft and new SEAD suppression of enemy air defenses aircraft. In recent years, both China and the United States have showcased hypersonic capabilities. Members of Congress have expressed their dissatisfaction with the perceived lack of progress by the Pentagon in developing and deploying new hypersonic weapons. In 2017, Russia became the first to deploy the Kinzhal, a hypersonic short-range ballistic missile, followed by the Avangard, a hypersonic boost glide vehicle, in 2019. China joined the race in 2020 with the deployment of the Dongfeng 17 DF-17 system, a road-mobile hypersonic boost glide system. What we are concerned about is falling behind in the development of new hypersonic weapon capabilities, said Senator Marsha Blackburn to Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall during a May 2022 hearing. Regarding their nuclear capabilities, the RAND Project Air Force Nuclear Scorecard assesses the stability of the bilateral nuclear relationship, focusing on crisis stability rather than one side's advantage. It evaluates both sides' ability to retaliate in the event of a first strike. When both sides possess a survivable second strike capability, the incentives for a first strike diminish, enhancing stability. Factors such as offensive weapons quantity, range, accuracy, and nuclear target details are considered. The threat of nuclear warfare is a significant concern in any conflict between two nuclear-armed powers like China and the United States. Both countries possess large arsenals of nuclear weapons, and the use of these weapons could lead to catastrophic consequences on a global scale. The potential for escalation to nuclear warfare adds a layer of complexity and danger to any conflict between these two nations. China has made significant advancements in both quantity and quality. Enhancements include road-mobile DF-31, CSS-9, and DF-31A ICBMs, as well as Type 094 Jin-class ballistic missile submarines, SSBNs, carrying JL-2 SLBMs. China is also developing next-generation road-mobile intercontinental ballistic missiles, ballistic submarines, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Furthermore, the potential for biochemical warfare cannot be ignored. A report with low confidence, published by the Energy Department in 2023, supports the speculation that the COVID-19 pandemic may have resulted from a lab leak in Wuhan. This facility openly engaged in various biological testing, involving both China and the United States. Given the extensive research programs in biology and chemistry of these two nations, the use of biological or chemical weapons could have devastating consequences for military and civilian populations alike. According to the World Health Organization, biological agents like anthrax, botulinum toxin, and plague pose a significant public health challenge, capable of causing widespread fatalities in a short period. These weapons consist of microorganisms, viruses, bacteria, or fungi, or toxic substances deliberately produced and released to induce disease and death in humans, animals, or plants. These unseen threats have the ability to spread rapidly and unknowingly, increasing their impact and reach. As witnessed during the response to COVID-19, travel and contact were severely restricted to prevent further spread and loss of life, thus revealing and stoking fear of contact which may pass on these biologics. The fact that these weapons can be transported through air, water, and various climates under the radar makes them an even more terrifying means of warfare. The consequences extend beyond immediate casualties, also creating opportunities for psychological operations to exploit the psyche of survivors in the aftermath. The complex nature of biochemical warfare and its potential impact on global security and stability underscores the need for heightened vigilance and cooperation between nations. International efforts to prevent the proliferation and use of biological and chemical weapons must be reinforced, accompanied by robust mechanisms for early detection, rapid response, and effective countermeasures. Psychological operations, commonly known as propaganda, encompass a wide range of tactics that can rapidly disseminate, much like biological warfare, but with the toxin being transported in thoughts and ideas. These operations aim to influence the perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors of both enemy decision-makers and the general population. In today's digital age, where information is consumed at an unprecedented rate and our lives are heavily intertwined with technology, we have become highly susceptible to these operations. The 2020 election and claims of fraud serve as prime examples of the challenges posed by an overwhelming amount of information and exacted interference, making it difficult to discern truth from opinion and fact from fiction. We can already observe unique applications of psychological operations, such as the contrasting treatment of the popular app TikTok in China and the United States. In China, TikTok is primarily presented as an educational platform with restricted access, particularly for children. On the other hand, in America, TikTok has been associated with the youth's struggle with depression and other mental illnesses, which have seen a significant rise during the COVID-19 pandemic. These operations encompass various tactics, including propaganda, disinformation campaigns, and strategies designed to undermine the morale and cohesion of adversaries. In recent years, there have been claims linking internet trolls to China, with the intention of exacerbating civil disputes within America, although concrete evidence is lacking. However, it is important to note that these threats are not the only ones that exist, particularly in this digital age. By understanding the complexity and potential impact of psychological operations, we can better navigate the challenges posed by misinformation and manipulation in our increasingly interconnected world. China has actively developed its cyber capabilities mirroring the United States' advancements. The country has invested billions of dollars in supporting these programs, underscoring its commitment to cyber warfare. In the event of an attack on the United States, cyber attacks would target critical infrastructure, military installations, and communication networks. Moreover, cyber warfare could disrupt not only essential services within the United States, but also vital systems like oil and gas pipelines, rail networks, and power grids. For instance, a cyber attack on the US power grid could result in widespread blackouts, affecting millions of homes and businesses. This would disrupt communications, potentially causing banks to go offline, hospitals to close, and air traffic to be grounded, leading to chaos and potential loss of life. Consider how much of American lives are digitized or on the grid. The fear of this potential has driven many to prepare with go bags and other end-of-the-world scenario preparations. Similarly, a cyber attack on water infrastructure could disrupt water supply and treatment systems, posing a risk to public health and safety. A recent survey conducted by Verizon revealed that only 15% of public safety organizations felt they were very prepared against cyber attacks. This highlights the urgent need for increased investment in cybersecurity measures to protect critical infrastructure and ensure the safety and well-being of the American population. To strengthen the call for readiness and emphasize the importance of recognizing potential threats, it is crucial to understand the significant risks posed by cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. As US Secretary of State Antony Blinken described in May 2022, China is the only country with both the intent to reshape the international order and, increasingly, the economic, diplomatic, military, and technological power to do it. In the event of a Chinese attack, potential targets may include traditional targets such as US air bases in Asia, naval aircraft carriers, military installations in the Indo-Pacific, critical infrastructure spots, the US mainland, space assets, and US allies, but also could be direct to the people and akin to some of these unconventional methods. Sun Tzu, a renowned Chinese military strategist whose integral work, The Art of War, which almost all American military officials read at one point of their career, writes about a most beneficial type of war. In the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. That means that the most beneficial means of war for an adversarial country is not for the cities and towns to be turned to ruins, but rather for a surrender to happen slowly, gradually. The mistrust that Americans have for their government and the civil fractions we have seen over the past several years reveal a different sort of susceptibility. Pair this with the strategically placed attacks both on cyber infrastructure and psychologically right to our pockets, and it's not difficult to imagine a swift takeover, one that may put us under siege without even noticing. This also begs the question, has the attack already begun? Over half of the young, up-and-coming Generation Z support the Marxist Communist Party, which earlier on in this video, we reviewed that the United States was and still is at the other end of an ideological battle, and which is at the center of the conflict between these two countries and their allies. Yet, in an effort of deterrence, leaders will take stock in the knowledge that there is mutual interest to both of these countries to maintain a civil relationship. Both China and the United States share a common interest in maintaining global stability and avoiding any military confrontation that may disrupt the delicate balance. As seen during the tariffs imposed by President Trump in 2018, an economic war, the US trade relationship is a serious lever to pull within a wartime or diplomatic situation, but one that demands either side to be respected by the other when considering the potential for attack. American companies exported $192 billion in goods and services to China in 2021, constituting 7.5% of US exports. While expanding foreign trade can disrupt US employment, trade with China also creates and supports a significant number of American jobs. Exports to China support over 1 million US jobs, and Chinese companies invested in the United States employ over 160,000 workers. While the tension may always seem to just be on the cusp of breaking into war, America can maintain positive diplomatic relations with China by setting clear objectives, which require cooperation, promote mutual benefit, and are considerate of national security. With actions like this, we can effectively deter any impending attack that may threaten our collective peace. However, if this threat is left unattended or ignored, or worse, underestimated, then we could very well experience a gross advancement of Chinese presence on American soil. Whether through an overt attack supported by boots on the ground, subtle means like psychological warfare, widespread biological weaponization, or a mixture of all, the threat does remain. So what do you think? Will China and the US eventually end up in some form of conflict? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more military analysis from military experts.